Okay, hello, good morning. My name is Martin Ledvinka, and today I would like to tell you something about the experiments I did with using LLMs to build glossaries of Czech legislation. So my motivation was we already work with legislative documents and glossaries or building glossaries from them, but so far the work has always been completely or 95% manual. So you would open the document and manually either mark the terms or just create the glossary manually based on your knowledge of the document or while reading the document. The problem is that, for example, Zákony pro lidi, the webpage that provides access to legislation to legislative documents in the Czech Republic, lists 900, over 900 laws and hundreds of other legislative documents. So creating such glossaries of such laws would be a huge amount of would require a huge amount of human work. So because large language models are the buzz today and they are quite good for working with text, I was wondering whether we would be able to use LLMs to analyze the text of the law and extract a glossary from this text using LLM. So the goal is, as I said, to be able to automatically extract the glossary of the legislative document with sufficient quality. And with sufficient quality, by that I mean that I want the output to be as much correct as possible and not necessarily complete. So correctness is for me more important than completeness. The challenges that or what I did was I tried to create some sort of pipeline that would allow me to pick a legislative document that I want to analyze and then run through the pipeline, and at the end of the pipeline I would get a cost compatible glossary of the document. So the problems that I faced were first, there's a large amount of text in the documents, and the relevant parts where the terms are defined is usually quite small. Another problem is because the documents are not created by, for example, IT people or any kind of person who has background in knowledge representation. They are quite unstructured. So even between the different legislative documents, the structure of, for example, the parts where the terms are defined is vastly different. So in one document, it's an ordered list where each item has a letter. In another document, it's a numbered list. There could be multiple levels, so it's quite different. Of course, also then there is the question of how to represent the document for the LLM, and also how to represent the output of the LLM. And last but not least, how to validate the quality of the output of the LLM. So what I did, and I want to stress that this is all just a proof of concept. The pipeline is still to a large degree manual. But what I did was I would take a legislative document, I would use the print version, which doesn't have, or I should explain. I would take the legislative document from a web page from Zákony pro lidi. I would get the print version of this because it uses less styling and less JavaScript-based dynamic parts. I would store the web page. I would extract the part of the document that declares the terms that are then used in the document. Then I would run it against, or I would use an LLM to extract the terms from it. Then I would post-process the results, create a SCOS glossary, and then import the SCOS glossary into Termit. As you can see on this image, A lot of the steps are still manual, but some of them are already automated using some scripts or small applications that I created for the purpose of this pipeline. Ideally, most of this pipeline would be automated, so that I would only pick the law that I am interested in and then just let the pipeline run. But that's for the future if it turns out that this is useful for anything. Okay, I would like to show you how the pipeline actually works, or me and the pipeline actually work, although I will not do it completely from scratch, because that would probably take a lot of time. So I would just try to illustrate the individual steps of the pipeline. So I picked one of the legislative documents on zákony pro lidi. In this case, it's vyhláška o kyberbezpečnosti, which is a law for cybersecurity in the Czech Republic. And it looks like this on the web page. And crucially, there is this section which is called vymezení pojmů, or declaration of terms, and it defines the individual terms. So basically each bullet in this list represents a definition of a term used further down in the document. So what I would do, and so far I have done it manually, is that I would take the print version, which looks like this. So you can see that it's much simpler, cleaner, and it doesn't have so much JavaScript. I would download this HTML file, which I would have here. So I download it without the styling, without the JavaScript, so it looks even more bare. And then, because as you can see, there's quite a lot of text in the file, what I would do is that I have a script that extracts only the first part, which declares the terms from the HTML. So basically I have a script which says, okay, I want only the part of the document which is between the část první and část druhá headlines. This has turned out to be quite reliable for the other documents that I was experimenting with. So the result of this script is this very short HTML, which I would then upload. So far I've used Postman, so I would upload the file to the Chat Infra API, which is the LLM that I used. It's run by Chestnut, and it's for academic purposes. I wasn't using ChatGPT, the original ChatGPT, but the LLM that I was using at this infra service is actually the ChatGPT model, only some local version, and obviously some smaller, less capable version. But it was good enough for the purpose of these experiments. So after uploading the file, basically what you do is that you send your prompt to the LLM chat, and you reference the file in this files section. So my prompt was basically, you are an expert you are a legislation expert, take the HTML file, extract terms and their definitions from this file. The label of the term has to be in I don't know how to call this in English, but basically it should be the basic form of the word. The text of the definition has to be exactly how it is in the document. Some cleanup, stuff like that. I put here some example, and at the moment, what I was doing, or the instructions were to return it as a markdown table, because it's quite easy to process. I actually do have experience with providing a JSON form or JSON schema specification for the LLM, so that it returns it directly in as a JSON. but I was using it for with Olama, and the API of this infra service doesn't support this. So far I've been using Markdown, which is more or less structured, and it works quite well. It can be processed quite easily. I also add here some other requirements. So I want just the table on the output, no other additional text. And I also gave the LLM some hints where to look for the terms. So I basically tell him, okay, look at the elements whose content starts with a bullet, or sort of a bullet. So this is basically, oh no, that's the wrong window. That's basically these lines in the document. So I run it. It takes, as you can see, this request took about 32 seconds. I get this pretty big JSON, but the only relevant part is here in the messages, or in the message, the content. So that's the markdown table extracted from the document. What I then do is do some post-processing on this, so some replacing of new lines so that it is really a proper markdown document with a table that can be further processed. I then save it, and then I have a very small application which basically goes through the table and creates a SCOS glossary from the rows of the table. So I just configure some, the input file, the name of the glossary or vocabulary to create, description optionally, the base URI of this glossary, and where to put the output. And when I run this application, I get a SCOS glossary, which looks something like this. And what I can do with this is just take it and import it to Termit, and I get this small glossary with all the terms that were defined explicitly for the particular legislative documents. This description is my manual description, which is basically copied from the header of the document. So this is how the pipeline is done. As you can see, there's still a lot of manual steps, but there's a lot of potential for automation, even for the scraping of the content from the web page, because this is a unique element on the page. So basically, what I could do is take WebDriver or Playwright, automate the web page so that it clicks on this link, because the URL is actually quite weird, because it uses this timestamp for the version of the document, so it's not easily derivable from the URL of the particular law. So it's probably safer to just open the base page and just click on the print version. The script can then download the content and run what I have right now in Postman. This can all be done in some application which would run the whole process. Okay, so that's the pipeline. I will go back to the presentation, but there's not much else to discuss, only the results of my experiments. So I tested it on 5 legislative documents. They are not so big in terms of how many terms they define. I can say that if the definition of the terms is predictable enough, the performance of this pipeline is actually quite good. So for all of these, so for the first one and these 3 last, it was able to extract all the terms that were defined in the preamble of each of the document, including the definition, and the definition was exactly as it was written in the document. This is the stavební zákon, the building law. It defines more terms, and the structure of the definition of the terms is much more complex. I can show you. I will show you the stripped version, which is easier to navigate, and it looks something like this. So you can see that there's basically each of the terms, or most of the terms, I should say, is defined as a sort of section, but the structure of the document is actually very flat. So it's just some paragraph with a different styling. So all of these are basically paragraphs. So it's very difficult to analyze or use the structure of the document to give some hints to the LLM. So I tried that, but it didn't really work. And then also we can see that a lot of the terms have some additional specification which could or could not be considered a term. So this is basically a building, or building is actually defined here, and here are some specification for subtypes or subkinds of buildings. So it's much more complex and much more difficult to guess what should be a term and what should not. So that's why the performance of the LLM on this particular document was a bit worse, but it still worked, I think, pretty well. 50 something terms, which is more or less what I extracted when I was reading the document, and I thought, okay, this should be a term, and so on. But still, definitely a lot of room for improvement. Some experience that I had with this, so I can say that for these like explicitly defined terms, which are in a lot of the documents in the preamble, there is this section which is always called something different, but it could be terms or terms used in this document, defined terms, and so on. But there usually is this sort of section, and if this section is reasonably structured or is reasonably simple, the performance is very good. I also tried extracting the hierarchy where it was possible to realize what sort of relationships between the terms there is, but the performance of the LLM was much worse. So I in the end I decided not to do that and just concentrate on just extracting a list of terms, so no hierarchical relationships. As I said, so far there's a lot of manual steps, but most of them can be automated. The question also is evaluation of the glossary quality, because so far I've been doing it manually, but obviously this is not feasible if we want to analyze more documents. There is also the question that the point that a lot of the documents, besides the explicitly declared terms in the preamble, they also define new terms within the text, and I didn't even try extracting these, but a lot of the documents do that, or based on my analysis of Slovník of CZ, where the glossaries were created manually, a lot of the terms were found somewhere down in the text. So this is something that at least the current version that I have doesn't really support. And of course, the question is what to do next with this, whether it makes sense to pursue this further, or whether it was just a fun experiment, but without any real usefulness. I was also looking at other sources of the law, so that I wouldn't have to use Zákony pro lidi, which is run by a private company. But there is this sbírka page or website, which I assume is like public domain, but the content of it is much harder to analyze. And I was also discussing with Linda from the Prague Institute of Planning and Development, She also pointed to me some of the documents that we could try analyzing, but they were in PDF. So this is another thing to consider, that besides the laws which are accessible through Zákony pro lidi, a lot of the documents would be in PDF, so it could be harder to analyze those. Okay, that's it. Thanks for your attention. If you have any questions, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Very interesting. So I maybe just the first question. Why didn't you try to do it on the whole text of the document? Or
Yeah, I was running into problems that there was just too many tokens. That the token
yes,
or the
okay.
context window was too big because the document was just too large.
And why? I mean, you could just chop it into smaller parts and do it this way. But I don't know,
Yeah,
how do you keep the context that that's the same document and then switch to another one?
yeah.
If it's possible. Did you uh, run into something like that? Or how to do something like that, to chop a document into
I
different?
actually did not try it because as soon as I realized that the terms are usually defined in the preamble, I just thought, okay, this part is quite easy to analyze and it will
Yeah.
be quite reliable. So I just disregarded the rest of the document because I just wanted to analyze this reliable part. But it definitely makes sense to also look into processing the rest of the document and trying to find terms there. But as I said, for this part, I just, as soon as I knew that there usually is this section in the head in the preamble of the document, I was just concentrating on that.
So, does it make sense? I mean, I didn't look into these examples, but I mean, these documents, I just looked at what you showed. So,
Mm.
is it possible, for at least for the tested ones, that this could be done without LLM, just manually? Not
Yeah,
manually, but some script, simple
yeah,
script with simple text processing to do this.
yeah. I was considering that because I thought, okay, it would be probably much more reliable. But the problem is with the structure of the document. So if I show you, so these are just some paragraphs with some random IDs
Mm,
and classes which represent, I think, just the level of indentation, pretty much. So there is basically no way to define how to find which parts to analyze, so or which parts to extract from.
mhm,
So that's why I thought, okay, so I will just use an LLM and just tell it, okay, look for paragraphs which start with C closing bracket or something like that, because it's just I couldn't find more reliable way of finding these. I also thought on SBRK they also have these downloadable versions of this, so you can download the PDF, which is basically just the text only in PDF,
mhm,
and the same in docx. But you can also download a file in JSON or an XML. So I thought, okay, let's try using that. But it's also not usable at all because it's just a list of elements without any
mhm.
usable content. So I can probably quickly show you. So you can download. I think it was in the zip, or maybe it was on the open data. Yeah, so there's this JSON file, but if you open it, it's probably not going to even open in this. I think I'll have to try to do it in Chrome, but it's just yeah, it's just a list of fragments with IDs and depth and XHTML. So it's completely useless. So you have basically you get just a list of HTML elements.
Yeah, I remember that we were discussing this with the people from Minister of Interior that were doing this, and we were saying them with Petra that this is useless.
Yeah, yeah, it
Like
is.
4 years ago.
Yeah,
And
the XML is the same. And the XML is the same, just XML.
yeah, and we wanted them to look that they could just annotate it using some RDF and
Yeah,
some
that
like
could be. That could work.
JSON LD, or at least JSON LD, and you see how it is. And the funny thing is that I already heard that some people from the new government are complaining about this digitalization of collection of laws.
Yeah.
That it's
Yeah.
very badly digitalized, which I agree with them.
Yes. Yes. And basically, if you want to analyze the document automatically, you can't use any of the versions provided by the government. You have to go to this private company that runs this this website.
Yeah, I remember the most funny thing is that as this was already published, I was at the Minister of Interior on the meeting with someone who was in charge of this, and we were looking at the law that defines this as sbírka.
Mm-hmm.
And we were looking at this law not in sbírka, but in zákony pro lidi.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's basically, this HTML version is basically what you would see in print, I assume. That's why it's indented like this, and it's the same as the PDF, the same layout as the PDF. So it's not very useful for any kind of automated processing. So that's why I thought, okay, let's try an LLM.
But I have a question on you. Were you somehow comparing these results of the LLM with the annotation, with the annotator we already have there in Termit?
No, not with that, but I was comparing it with the glossaries in SSP in Slovník of CZ. And I found out that, for example, the stavební zákon, the version that is on Slovník of CZ has, I think, like 5 terms. IPR has another version of stavební zákon, which is also about 5 terms, but a different set of terms. So that I found quite funny.
But I know how this was created. It's because someone needed some specific terms from the construction law, so he just created them because he needed to reuse it.
Yeah, exactly.
So there was no systematic approach to extract data, extract all the terms from the law. So that
yes, exactly. Which I understand it for IPR, but I was hoping that for this official public documents or public glossaries or vocabularies, they would actually create a complete version of these. But
yeah, I don't think so, because there is no one who's responsible for the construction law.
Yeah. So,
for example, someone from outside needs to use those terms because they are defined in the construction law. But the people that shall be responsible for construction law, in my opinion, are not yet part of this system.
Yeah. So, for example, you can see that the official Slovník vyhlášky o kybernetické bezpečnosti has 12 terms. The one that I extracted has 16. And you can see that there are some missing already. But on the other hand, there are also some which are not in the preamble of the file. So, for example, this architect of cybersecurity or auditor, that's not in the preamble of the file. So these are probably used somewhere down in the text, or defined somewhere down in the text. So the automated
Yeah, I remember how I was
pipeline
working
that I
with.
used was not able to find them.
Yeah, I remember how I was working with Termit when I was creating vocabulary, for example, for Ruyan, I think. And it was like that you have some terms which are defined in the first part of the legislation document, but then there is quite a lot of terms that are used because the author of the document just presumes that everyone knows what does it mean.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you don't create any definitions there, but you need to define them as the terms.
Yeah.
And in the end, I think this is the issue that we will be facing all the time when we will be trying to digitalize legislation because there is a lot of terms that everybody expects that everybody knows them, but that's not something we can do when we are digitizing them and we are creating some ontologies over them. So we need to have everything in the ontology or in the glossary at least. So this is probably the biggest problem as I see it here. So we need to change the mindset of people creating the laws.
Yeah. I also thought that basically this, at least the pipeline that I was creating and working with, will always have to be semi-automated. So, but at least you can use it as a seed to, extract the terms that are quite clearly defined. So, for example, in this particular document, these 16 terms are actually, declared at the beginning of the file, which is so that's are these, and then someone will probably have to manually go. Someone who has knowledge of this document will probably have to go through the document and point out additional terms which were not extracted automatically. But I think it's at least it's a start to get some like clearly defined terms from that. But yeah, that's definitely a problem. Like this expert knowledge, which is not explicitly stated.
Okay. Do you have any other questions regarding the speech?
Just to clarify, you had feed the LLM these HTML, simplified HTML,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, the HTML files. Yeah.
So did you try to just feed the text? Like you can somehow convert that to text, plain text. I think you can download it or print it as text or something like that.
I think I tried it, but I think what the problem is that the HTML gives you at least some sort of structure. But if you just copy the text from it and send it as a plain text, I think it's I think the result would definitely not be better. Maybe it could be the same. Maybe the LLM doesn't give a shit about the HTML and it just looks at the text.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
that's
I don't know. Yeah, we can try that too as well. Sure.
maybe that's like not to plain text, maybe just to some markdown, something which is simpler in terms of the tokens. As you said that there are too many
Yeah.
tokens.
Mm,
Maybe the HTML contributes to that as well.
yeah, could be worth considering. Yeah.
And I don't think I have more questions, but it's interesting to me also to try to use, but as you said, problem with token limits or something like that, to process, to use the LLM into other parts of the pipeline, like, for example, to somehow identify the structure of the document, let's say, to make a prompt, to have multiple agents, or how is the right terminology, to have process this and extract the structure of the document and identify where is the
Yeah.
term definition section.
Yeah, that's what I was trying, but as I said, basically the document has no usable structure. I don't know if I have the exact output, but basically what it told me is that there is a list of paragraphs with classes L4, L5, which is, I assume, the level of indentation, and that's basically it. So I was trying to analyze or to use the LLM to analyze the structure of the document, and it didn't give
Okay.
me anything useful. So that's why I ended up with this, I think, quite stupid prompt, which just says, okay,
I see.
when you are looking for the terms, look at HTML elements whose text content starts with a letter followed by a closing bracket, which basically represents a list or ordered list, but it's not an HTML ordered list. It's just a list of So it's basically, I think I basically treated it as plain text, because that's what it more or less is. It's just a list of paragraphs. And by paragraphs, I mean HTML paragraphs, not the legal paragraphs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's. I also tried different models, but I think this GPT OSS 120 billion was the best. So that's why I stuck with that, because the infra webpage or the service has a number of other models that you could use, but this one was, I think, the best. Yeah, so it looks very much like ChatGPT.
Yeah.
The API is, I think, I don't know how they call it, the Open API or OpenAI API, something like that. The documentation is atrocious. So it was mostly try and error based on documentation of the OpenAI, but not everything is the same for some reason. So it was quite difficult to actually figure out how to. The most difficult part was how to figuring out how to upload the file and then reference the file in the next request. So that was probably the hardest.
Oh, so you opened the file, you didn't feed it into.
No, what you do is you upload the file. So it basically, this corresponds to you just select the file
Profile.
here
Okay.
and
Yeah.
write
Okay.
the rest of the prompt and then send the request or send. And what it does is that it first uploads the file and then sends a prompt referencing the file. So the file storage is basically works separately from the generation requests.
Okay,
And
that's
that's the same
interesting.
with the API. So I first uploaded the file. You get some identifier. I think it's this one, and I used just some small script to extract the file ID so that I can automatically reference it here. I didn't have to copy paste it.
I see.
That's more or less how you do it for the API.
And the prompt is passed as in a body, as a context.
Yes. Well, it's messages, and you just say, okay, this is the content. So this is the
It's
prompt.
quite nice. I think useful.
Yeah. I mean, the Olama API is much better. It's much better documented, but this infra service doesn't use Olama. They have, I think it's some version of the OpenAI API. I just don't know which version. It's definitely not the version which is currently published or documented on the OpenAI web pages.
Yeah, we definitely can. I don't know. Maybe make some assignment like a diploma thesis or maybe bachelor thesis for someone trying to do that with ChatGPT, because I don't know, or something like that, because I don't think so. I don't think that any of us has time to go like a lot deep into this.
Petter actually did that, or they did some version of this, but they were more concentrating on the hierarchy as well. And they had some online service which unfortunately is not accessible anymore. But I know that he did that. Linda sent me actually the link to the thesis, and she said that she was doing some user testing for them. So yeah, there was already a diploma thesis for something similar. Yeah, I think my approach was to some extent simpler because I was just extracting the list of terms with definitions. So no hierarchy, no relationships between the terms. But I also found it more reliable, which is what I was aiming for. So my goal was to extract what I can be sure is usable and doesn't require additional human interaction or human verification.
Yep.
So yeah, I think this could be a first step in, I don't know, a project or whatever, depending on how much we are interested in that. Also, you can, as I said, this infra is it's for academic purposes, so all of you can use it. You just have to register an account. You use your CTU account, and they basically always, I assume they always approve it, so then you can use it as well. So it's quite good because the models are large enough, I think, to be useful. So unless you are paying for ChatGPT or any other similar service, this is, I think, a good option for academic purposes.
So this means that you have no limit, or it's just bigger than, let's say, ChatGPT.
I think that I don't know. I don't think there is a limit. I don't know. Probably not. Yeah, I mean, the model is smaller, definitely, than the one that you can access through ChatGPT. But the results were comparable. I also tried the same approach with ChatGPT through the web UI, and the results were quite comparable. So that's why I used this in the end.
Martin, can I ask? So I didn't get what's the interface, because you said it's kind of crazy, but is it model based, or there is one interface for all those models?
You mean for this service?
Yes. Is it one interface and
Yes, you
just
specify the model in the request.
Okay.
You can list the models that are available.
So with those requests, you can just switch and it will work. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you searched some plugin for Olama?
Where?
Like, I don't know, somewhere on GitHub, whatever. Whether.
But why would I do that? This is a completely different API. Olama is just an API to which you upload models. This is the API that's provided by the service. So there is no need or no use for Olama.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I think we can end it. I think it was much longer than expected. It was the discussion, but yeah, you can discuss any potential for future work. I think maybe next year, maybe not on Monday, but when we meet in January. Because I think there is definitely potential, but depends on how we use it. If we try to write a paper or try to write a project for that.